joining. I think we just lost Shy there.
In the room.
Okay. All right. You want to get started, or you want to wait for Tom?
Started. Let me just bring him to see if he's online.
Hey, sure. He's going to check out if Tom's available.
Some response from him. So
by the way,
make sure we are talking about the model 8.
I'm sorry?
So today's discussion is to talk about the model for in-memory.
Yeah, we could. I had a couple questions on something, a couple things we didn't cover from the previous conversation, but do you want to until we cover the data, or?
Yeah, go ahead and ask those questions. We can start with that.
Okay. So the data, and we said a third of that in terms of what's in production. But you has 5,000 TPS about that, and it's certainly it really depends on what those transactions are doing. So I just asked a few questions regarding the compute side. So it's going to be what your production volumes are, or is it a slice that we're taking for the POC?
The production volume.
Okay.
So for the POC, we are looking at about 40% of that volume. That would be around 2,000 PS.
That's cool. And they're going to be basically run, I guess, in business logic, right? To do those kind of, near 50 miles from that store and all those kind of different business rules that you discussed last time.
Right. That's something that we can discuss. I think it will be nice to actually integrate those rule engine along with cache, but the feedback or ideas there. It's not that I necessarily have to have. So I have a way to implement that along with the caching solution. I'm also right.
It probably makes sense to, once we think of how many, you know what, why don't we just ask right now, how many do you think that are going to use for POC?
POC, excuse me, I think a very small subset of rules. I would say 10.
Okay.
In production, it will be a lot of rules that will be exercised before we actually calculate the availability and the price. Not dealing with the price at all. And when it's information that itself has about 200 plus rules in current state for the POC. But when we talk about availability, just finding out whether this item is available or not, that's full of rules in current state. But again, for the POC sake, we will not be implementing all of those rules. It will be a subset just to pretty much prove what the technology, that rules, or what the business rule engine is, and the capability to do compute in memory itself.
Understood. And okay. Well, hey Tom, thanks for joining. Hey. We're just going over some of the questions we had left over from last week, right side. The rule itself, is it going to be something like, okay, if this object is not in store, available, or something like that? Like if that?
I can actually show you some of the rules. Go and so able to see my screen now?
Yes, thank you.
These are some of the rules that we have in scope for the POC specifically. Right? Think of yourself as a customer, right? Think of a scenario that you're shopping online, right? You go online, log into Lowe's.com, you zip into a store location, right? And then you search for item that you're looking for. So you're looking for an, and then you go sale page wherein you see specific about a specific fan and how many items do you need or how many quantities for that specific item and cart, right? So that shopping experience, you actually have three ways to get item delivered to you. You pick up that item from the store location or delivered to you using the Lowe's truck delivery, or you could get that item parcel to you in one of the carriers, UPS, FedEx, USPS, and whatnot, right? So provides all of these three options based upon item location combination. Items are parcelable only. Items are not available for parcel. Similarly, some items will not be available for pickup at a store. Anything which is coming directly from the vendor, some of those items are parcel only, right? So those are these. Now, generally, when you shop online and you choose one of these delivery methods, so there is a forcing rule that we apply to check availability for an item. So if you see on the screen, if you select the pickup option, first of all, we look at the item availability at the zipped-in store. Here is a store in New York, right in Manhattan, and first of all, we need to check whether that store has any on-hand inventory. If check if that store is going to get any of the inventory which is on order, right? If that get 10 of these hammers, tomorrow, maybe 3 days from now, maybe 5 days from now, that on-order inventory too. And any of the supplying nodes, right? Supplying nodes means RDC, CHFs, or EDs, your distribution centers. These nodes having this item available. The local store is available on order. If not on order, is it available at any of the supplying nodes? If not available at any of the supplying nodes, then also check the on-order inventory for the supplying nodes itself. And then through a business rule. Right. So in that case, you will have data corresponding to the on-hand inventory for a given item location combination. So you use this hammer at a Manhattan location, and hand I've got 10 of those, right? And on I've got 20 more, which are going to be coming 3 days from now, right? If you're asking for 25 available for pickup right now, right? So we provide a message back to the customer, say 10 available today, and then 15 more are going to be available 3 days from now. And then replace the order or adjust the quantity in his order, right? All of that behind the scenes is done using business rules, which in current state are kind of hard-coded within the application itself. So we move all of these business rules into a centralized business rule engine for visibility to the IT as well as the non-IT folks.
Got it. So the grid itself is read-only, right? Besides coming from the database.
The grid would be updated. So as event is moving at all the locations, right? We are constantly selling these items, these products online and through their channels, your mobile phone, your Apple Watch, your Android app, So the inventory is continuously moving, right? So all of those updates will be pushed back to our records, and then they will post these events, which will then be updated in the cache. So, so, so that's just a read-only cache. The events to the cache.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, to clarify what I meant was, words, the client applications that are going to be using those business rules, they will be updates. The other coming from the data source side, yeah, I'm just, in my architecturally, I was thinking the data source is a little different. So
there's
the data model.
I think you're right, Alan. So there's clarification. So there is a write side of this architecture, and then there is a read side, right? Read side is where the consumers are asking the question, hey, do you have this item available at this time? What we are referring as the read side. So like I was showing you here on the screen, so we have certain rules applied to the data that's in cache, right? The right side of the integration, right? That's getting all these inventory update events from the system of records that is created in the cache. So even in the write events, the business rules that apply to the data before the data is stored in the cache.
Understood. What I'll do is I'll create an architectural diagram, something, and I'll send it over to you guys so we can have like a visual representation of what we're both saying, so we know we're kind of in terms of how the architecture is put together. But it's I agree with you, so we're on the same page.
I'm willing to share with you since we have an NDA in place now. I see some of those drawings that we have. Okay, so what's on the screen right now are multiple blocks, right? So if you start bottom to up, right? So system records, you see at the very bottom. And we call this as system of reference. Sorry for the drawing, I'm not good at it. Execution layer, which is pretty much your integration layer. Then you have all of these consumers, right? We feed into .com, all the different that we support today from an perspective, right? As information is updated, as the inventory is moving at all of these system of records, like your storages, your your coastal holding facilities, each systems are generating events in terms of inventory updates that are this logical layer, which is a system of reference, which is a consolidated view of inventory across all the chains, right? I mean, store chains. And then Sterling itself will have certain business rules that they will apply to the data and make this information available to the enterprise, right? So that actually send this inventory events back to the execution layer, which is pretty much the integration layer here, and then processor that will process the events and will put them into the cache here. Program is BRE agnostic. That there is going to be execution of certain business rules before data is persisted either in the operational data store or in the cache. Okay, so you will not see any reference to a BRE here in this diagram. See cache as well as ODS here. So that
Following the inventory, how is that's going to be speaking to the space, right? The space will be where the inventory right now is. Is that correct?
here, like in this
right.
cache box.
Architects, so I'm not surprised you have it all get out already. But what protocol is that inventory processor going to be speaking to us by?
Like the APIs that you may have.
Okay.
Because
integrate with the ESB?
Correct.
Okay. ESB or is it like a Mule or what are you guys using?
We software web methods today.
Okay.
Yeah, runtime. Comfortable using the Java APIs to connect to gigaspaces.
So G web methods.
Yep.
It's funny. We had a client reach out to us about integrating with web methods. I just got an email today. It's amazing. Okay, great. And we thought we're going to be reading directly from the database. So this is easier, actually.
So the only caveat there is we could have done that, but the Sterling application, which is kind of the system of reference in this architecture, so they have to apply certain business rules on top of data before they generate the events for size. Where we don't want to access the data by itself, we want Sterling to provide the right picture in terms of what is inventory available for us to sell at a given location.
One of our prospects right now is asking us to scale Sterling in a similar way. They want the updates to go directly to Sterling, but also to go from the grid, because Sterling apparently has latencies on the read side.
Here, that's exactly the problem that we are solving with this architecture.
Yep. Very cool. So in terms of the data model, it's two elements to think about. So the first one, as I mentioned last week, was, accessing the data, but that's only part of the formula. The other part will be what data for the business rules to results based on the inbound parameters from the, whatever we're going to be working with. So once we, in other words, I think to understand which elements of the data model we need to include, we need business rules. Unless it's going to be required in order for those 10 business rules or whatever slide you're using.
So shared, we put all of it for the POC actually.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only the data model that we would leverage for the POC. So how do we go through that conversation?
Maybe if you're okay with it, we could save it for kind of a whiteboarding session. Once we have rules in front of us, and we have like a catalog of all the different elements that the rules need to do. For example, knowing how much inventory is in a specific store, one table, how far it stores from some table. I'm just guessing. And once we apply all of those, we'll look at the data model and try to understand, okay, which tables are the primary data modeling. Does that make sense?
So you think that it will be good for us to kind of whiteboard once your team here on site?
I just modeling when we do it in professional services, it takes some time because there's no right answer. There's no one answer. It's a kind of an art and a science. It depends on achieve with it. So in our case, we know exactly what we're trying to achieve, but details of those business rules.
With you.
So,
yep. So
production, we're going to have to basically map almost all. Your business rules are probably going to span all of it. I just think for the POC, it'd be better to do just what we need to have area.
So how do you want to plan out that on-site session actually? Do you want it to be a half-day session, like a 4-hour session?
Honestly, if we're going to fly down to North Carolina, let's, as much as your time we could have, it'll be better.
Okay.
That was
Okay.
kind of the question was going to be, how the development team going to look like? And that you and Tom, also is good right now, you both researching different technologies to solve the same problem. So how does all that dynamic work in terms of the development team? And
Yep. So that's a good question actually. So what we're working on right now is to actually engage the development team in terms of doing parallel development to connect solutions, right? So what they're doing now is a configuration-driven architecture where they will have an option to just flip a switch, and then on that switch, they will decide whether it will connect to spaces or something else.
okay.
So they're in code like kind of APIs. So they did some exploration in terms of going through some samples on gigaspaces,
Mm-hmm.
and and similar research on Cassandra and some of the other solutions that we are looking at. So the goal is to come up with some sort of a generic framework that will allow them to actually connect with one solution versus the other, so that we don't have to code it at a time when we are trying to do test with, evolution.
Right, and it makes sense, and then it could be a fair comparison as well. So that's
right. So it will common runtime is what we are expecting. So it will still be, let's say, web methods integration server, right?
Right.
Same Java libraries we'll use from Gigaspace as well as from, let's say, Cassandra and other vendors, right? And using a common runtime will connect to each one of these solutions, set get data.
Sandra, it's a different technologies. Are they have the same success criteria as we will? Because I'm not sure that they could do the business logic.
But in terms of the overall throughput, right? So being able to access data, being able to update data, and then be able to have some sort of achieve with an application factor and whatnot, it's still at par with the that you offer, right? So that's the we have. Now, obviously, in your case, you have a unique advantage to run the Druze engine within a cache itself. No vendor so far that we have come across is offering, right? We need to find a way to fit in part of our success criteria. Team who is kind of working with us to define success criteria for each of these vendors. And the rule engine is definitely a component that we're working on in terms of defining the success criteria for that. Your solution, built with the solution itself, we understand that there are going to be more synergies, and then performance could also be an advantage. But success criteria is something that is still work in progress, I would say.
Okay, this is one of my questions. My next question, actually. But thank you for that. Is it Tom's? So Tom's doing the integration piece, and you're focusing on the vendor technologies, or Tom's the NoSQL technologies, and you're heading up the grid technologies, and then collaborate at the end?
Yeah, it's better, Alan. I think that's a great space, and we know that. But that, that Naveen said is, that's the indoctrination into this POC, right? But yeah, you're right. We still need to kind of have these basic understandings of traditional relational data model organization, and so we are moving to a different model of from a logical view to an actual physical view, and express that in a which becomes key values, just kind of a variation. Are you key value? Are you a white column? So I think all this makes sense. So we're really narrowing that scope as far as what the performance looks like within a non-relational store. Let's come into play, because there's probably going to be a couple different for how the model we implemented to still that pickup, delivery, parcel, according to that Naveen.
All right, makes sense.
So a little bit of different spin on it, but we have these facades around each product to help keep some variables, some essential variables like interfacing static.
Sure. I actually like your approach. I used to be in an architecture team. You solve a business problem, and your investable technologies. Your goal is to get the best technology and solution for the business. So that makes the most sense. So, anyway, another question on that specifically. When you do, let's say, have your best grid, have your best QL, is it going to be like a team decision, or is there multiple? Someone chooses that decision going to be made?
Collective effort. So report into, not really report as in a reporting structure. Sotra, he's the EA architect on it. So he's leading this whole CPI redesign effort from Lowe standpoint. So all of these findings that Tom will have from NoSQL, and then I'll have from all the data grids. So all these learnings, they will actually go back to Suraj. And we'll collectively, both Tom, myself, and Suraj will come up with the recommendations. Yeah.
Okay. So, by the way, our data store, and Tom kind of touched on it, we have the stack kind of schema model to start with, and it's not specifically key value. We do have key value if you wanted that, but it's kind of and we could talk about that in the future.
Yeah, what? Can just have a small comment here.
Sure.
Internally, the architecture, the kernel, is actually very similar in a sense to what you would find today with things like, again, Cassandra and Mongo, and so more it's actually more similar to a foundation DB that was acquired by last year. So if you with foundation DB, it's got this kind of a special structure that allows it to have the data projected, whether it's objects, as a NoSQL database, as a code database, a graph database, and so forth. So we've got things like that internally. Okay, obviously way more mature, robust, and so forth. So to your question, we can act as a cache, we can act as a NoSQL, and you'll see on that we also pretty robust data management that would allow you to maintain data whether pure in RAM, off heap, local file, and so forth. So it's a technology that is flexible with different scenarios easily.
All right. But okay, so the reason I brought up Naveen, I know you guys already are interested. It's so to create the success criteria. I think it might be beneficial to work with us in terms of making, because in some other ways we overlap with the NoSQLs as well, and we can't do so. We're happy to compete with them on the things that they can do, and then we'll obviously add on for us for other success criteria. So that's why I brought that up. Tony joined us. Hey, Tom. Any right now? Is there anything covered yet, Naveen?
So right now I definitely work on scheduling the on-site event, maybe a full day with our team, Ellen. What I'm looking for is the information for our development team to have started with some of the development tasks that they have in their plate.
Okay.
About this facade framework, right? We are having them build out this framework with able to connect with each of these solutions in the back end. So what right now is those set of APIs. If you have kind of a sample code that they average, actually connect to spaces, to data, put data, do you have that you could give me a reference to?
Absolutely. I mean, you want to go native adapter to the grid. You don't want to use REST or anything.
No, native.
Okay. Okay. How big is your development team? You said you're going to split it, but how many people for the grid are going to be accessible to our SE?
We have about on-site who on the average people from offshore or some of the vendors that work here.
Okay. In order to start, I know, so you're going to work on the kickoff, and that makes sense, but in order to start you guys up the best way, in this session, we'll have a quicker introduction with our SE. That would be Michael Rainey from our side.
Perfect.
Guys, set up a QA environment or something that in terms of having some test what we're going to do, and also show you those APIs that you're talking about to get you kind of started.
Super.
And obviously Mike's going to come with us on site, so we'll have a discussion about data model, and we'll get into a deeper dive of rules and how we're going to those business logic, how we're going to interpret those rules. And then, if you would like, Michael could stay with you guys for a day or two or whatever. We'll figure out the right combination and how much work we have, and that we're there with you to make sure that this is right. So make sure that this is successful.
That's awesome. So exactly what I was looking for, actually. I'm glad you mentioned everything that I was waiting to listen. Let me go actually. So set up some time with our development folks for them to understand integrity about how to connect with spaces, how to read data, how to put data, and all of that. And time is saying when we actually do the on-site event, Michael and our team could serve longer than just a one-day event, right? So if we need him for, let's say, a couple of days just to finish some of the activities, right?
Yeah, and do you have an idea of how long this entire project is going to be? Because here, if this is POC we on is 2 weeks about, and Michael on site and things like that I think is going to move along a lot quicker. So have a time frame as to beginning and end date. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are starting now, so we are actually in the process of building out the servers like we discussed last week. So it is working on getting the VMs ready. So as we have that, the goal is to actually set up the solutions on those VMs, like in terms of, like you were mentioning earlier, getting the elements ready with, space instances up and running, fully configured, and then ready to go. That is all scheduled to happen in next couple of weeks or so. And the platform is ready, the development team is done with their development. The goal is filing some, load testing on these servers to get the performance and all of that, right? Looking at some time by to have all of these instances set up, all working with all deployed, and probably some initial level of testing done.
Okay, like 2 weeks until the VMs are up with Gigaspaces installed, and then 2 weeks of development time. Is that right?
Development happening in parallel, and that's what I was mentioning earlier, that if we get your help to get some of the prep work done, VMs are getting set up.
Yep.
So we work on things in parallel, and as soon as we get the VMs done, we'll install the software and then deploy the solution on top of it.
Definitely, like, there's generic things and there's custom things. So the generic thing is setting up Gigaspace. for you guys, and I think within 30 weeks, it's pretty simple. Now, that's assuming that the VMs are available, obviously. Part of having the simple APIs to reach to gigaspaces. That's much effort as well. I think complexity will come in the data modeling, which will tour on site, and the business rules creation. But once we know how to inject the rules into the knowledge base on the space, you put those rules inside DRL files and playing with them yourselves, because really nobody knows the rules better than you guys do. We're not going to be able to help you with that.
Okay. So, probably see if I can find some spare VM somewhere that has started. That I get the VM sometime this week. Can we next week sometime for our team to actually understand the configuration and some of the development aspect.
Yep. So, we'll take it as an action item. Is you let me know when your team is available for next week, and we'll start working on that.
Okay. So in terms of configuring spaces, so do you want to actually do any kind of prep work? Some kind of installable that I can use to get it installed, and then probably during the WebEx session we'll just work on configuring it.
If you to work on your own time, we have a document with images and basically a step-through guide that will allow you to create an entire cluster. There's no hiccup. Essentially, you can create the entire thing on your own. I thought it would be easier having Michael kind of walk you guys through it, but this is why you can't. If you have a Linux admin, just
Okay. So yeah, I would send me the document.
Okay.
Let you know the availability for our team for early next week. We'll go from there.
Okay.
All right.
You want to do an introduction with the development? So is the admins, the developers, is the same people?
There are two separate teams.
Okay.
We have both of them there in that meeting.
Okay. I know you want to have the introduction for the APIs as well. Two guys, so you can reach out to the base.
Yeah. So that's really our development team. Yeah. Both of them in the room. We go through the discussion.
Okay.
Or if you split it, I don't know how much time it will take for us to just go through the admin stuff. If you do it piecemeal, wherein we can probably have a discussion this Friday, go through the setup of the environment, and then probably sometime next week, Tuesday or Wednesday, we can have a follow-up call with the development team to have them go through the AIs for them to be able to access and then put data to the cache.
So he said he's available on Friday. So if you want to start this Friday, we can go. Okay.
I'll set up some time this Friday. If you can send me the document, that would be awesome.
After this meeting, we'll follow up right away, and then we'll just wait for availability from your side, and we'll just figure out, get Mike in touch with the admins, and set up some kind of introduction for the APIs as well. Time is what we do is yourself when you guys, hopefully everything goes well and you pick gigaspaces, and we're all happy. And we have a training. It usually takes like 3 days for development. So what we do, a lot of time we understand the scope of choose certain kind of elements of the training, and we do like 3 one-hour training sessions with your development staff on the side to understand what and what you're doing it. So way, there's smoke and mirrors or magic tricks here. So everybody kind of understands why and why everything is happening.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
No problem. So I do have a question, though. You said end of May is the end, right? And I assume doing parallel development, so just around that time, it seems like other vendors will also be done. The decision itself, do you know when that's going to be made? You mentioned, I think the first time we spoke to the 2017 project. Yeah.
So 17 is a goal date for this overall solution. So we in the analysis phase right now in terms of finding out the solutions that are required to realize this architecture. The actual implementation for this overall architecture is supposed to start sometime Q2 this year and till Q2 of next year. So just to identify the right solution for caching and everything, we are ready. So maybe the time when we are assuming that all the test data, everything will be done, and then we'll actually record all the learnings. We'll come and then we'll convert them into a recommendations document. So all that may take us through June or sometime around June to publications to the enterprise, and then on, based upon feedback from everybody else, from all the stakeholders, we may have to make some adjustments. So I'm hoping by June we'll have a final answer in terms of, what to move forward with.
Okay. So, and the actual project would then begin in 2016, it sounds like, and go into 2017.
So as soon as we are done with the recommendations, the project would start after that. Right, procurement and all of that in terms of the recommended solution, right? And the project team will actually spin up a development project to implement this architecture.
Okay.
It's pretty much on track in terms of what we are set to deliver in 2017.
You. So that's basically what I wanted to find out. It sounds like everything makes sense. It sounds like we're going to have enough time to. So I know what we have to do. We have to follow up and make sure you guys have that documents. Is there anything else that we can help you with before Friday?
think of. Tom, do you have anything? I think it's pretty good. Sorry, guys, I'm kind of muting in and out. I'm actually on the road. No, it's pretty expensive. I think the engagement part's gonna be, really full.
Excellent.
Okay.
We'll have to circle up on some of the requirements later on from a hardware perspective and which like that, but.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Awesome.
So I'll follow up with those documents and make Friday.
Yep. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yep. Thank you. Bye.